September meeting of the Farmville Board. As you know, we will not meet in September because of the way that Labor Day is falling, so this is our meeting for September. We will go through September and catch back up in October and be on a regular schedule from that point on. The business of the town of Farmville will be conducted tonight. Those that having to be business with the town will be heard 2 times. One's in citizen presentation. And then at the end of the agenda for any questions you have pertaining to exactly what we've talked about tonight. So make that very clear, exactly about what we've talked about tonight. Let the record show that all the commissioners are present, town attorney and town manager also. So with that being said, I'm going to ask Wes Thomas to come up and deliver our invocation. Wes? And he'll be followed by Commissioner Smith, who will lead us in the pledge. Stand if you wish.
Good evening. Let us pray. Father God, we start this evening by saying thank you. Thank you for your grace, your mercy, and your unconditional love. Father God, as we conduct the business of this town, guide the officials and lead them to make wise and fair decisions that are beneficial and prosperous to this community. Give us all the ability and the desire to walk and talk as people of integrity and honor. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Smith.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that being said, Amy, did I have any citizen? I have no citizen presentations. That'll bring us down to the town manager's comments. Mr. Hodgkins.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the board, just have a couple quick things. I mentioned last time, I'll mention again, the Thursday in the Park events are starting back September 19th, Thursday, at the main museum, 5:30 to 8:30 on the grounds, and then, of course, food, music, vendors, the usual stuff. So looking forward to seeing them again after the hot summer. Also wanted to announce that there's going to be a free COVID test kit distribution coming up. That is going to be on Wednesday, September 4th from noon to 2 in front of the Farmville Community Center. The kits are being provided by a group called CARES of Pitt County. They're community-based nonprofit serving Pitt County and surrounding areas. And they've got, I believe, 1,000 kits that they're going to give away. And so we're going to get the word out. And the mayor, I think, got the call originally and put her in touch with me. And so we have got it all worked out. It's going to be a drive-through location. And we'll make sure the word gets out. So that's all I had. Thank you.
On that note, David, could you get a flyer or have Tanya get a flyer and make sure she gets it at the Little Rocket?
Okay.
That's a great place to put it because everybody seems to go there, and that's a good thing. And thank her for joining us because the COVID is back, and if we can get free gifts, it would be a good thing. Go ahead, sir.
One other thing I wanted to mention in talking with her, forgot to write it down here, but they also do some food distribution. And I told her about the blessing boxes that we have, one at behind the Christian church and one behind the community center. So they're going to start bringing over some things on a regular basis to put in those boxes. So again, totally free as a community service. So.
According to the agenda, Ms. Tice is going to give us a report here later on, but based on what you've heard so far, is there any questions of the town manager at this point? Anybody having a town questions? Seeing none. That brings us down to the financial report. You have it in your booklet. Are there any questions for Amy on the financial report? Anybody having any questions at this time? Seeing none, that'll bring us down to changes, additions, and deletions to the agenda. Board, you see it before you. Is anything you'd like to take off or add to? If so, let me know. If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
I move to accept the agenda as printed.
Dr. Hobbs has made a motion that we accept the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us down to the public hearing tonight. Mr. Mike Barnett is with us tonight. He's going to be talking about a closeout of public for CDBG grant. The presenter, Mike Barnett. Anyone having comments on this, you'll have an opportunity in just a moment. Mike, it's good to see you. The room's yours, sir.
Thank you. This is the first of 2 public hearings. One is to end and close out one CDBG program and then hopefully apply for a second. So We're at the end of the 2018 CDBG&R program. With that program, we completed 3 owner-occupied single-family homes and rehabilitation and did the construction of the ADA accessible restrooms at the Arts Council facility. We're at the end of the program. What we need to do, Mr. Mayor, is receive public comment, and then I'll be glad to entertain any questions you may have.
Okay, prior to opening it up, anybody have any questions at this time of Ms. Barnett? Any questions? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak on this, please come forth. Anyone? Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Now, board, we have questions, comments, or motion on the item concerning the CDBG closeout. Questions, comment, or motion?
Just the 750,000, how much of that did we utilize all of that?
There was about 8% left.
Okay.
We couldn't get,
So-
wasn't enough to do the final house. that we
Right,
had.
yeah, gotcha. Okay, good.
And the motion we're requesting, Mr. Mayor, is to authorize the town manager to sign the closeout paper.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the closeout of the 2018 CBDG program.
So what you're saying is authorize the town manager to sign the closeout paperwork. Is that your motion?
That's correct.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Stay right where you are. We're going to go to the next one. This next one is to approve the selection committee bylaws and guidance to be used for the upcoming solicitation process for grant funding, which is another CDBG grant. Mike?
Yes, sir. The applications, they're accepting applications again to be due October 23rd. We're required to have 2 public hearings. This is the first public hearing. We'll have a second public hearing in October. The applications will be up to $950,000. They can include low moderate income housing improvements. They can improve activities that support housing improvements. They can do community center, neighborhood center, recreation facilities, housing for the homeless, shelters for domestic violence, transition housing, removal of barriers to restrict mobility, which would be ADA type activities, and access for the elderly and disabled, shelters for people with special needs, and all activities that benefit at least 51% low moderate income. Now that's in the newspaper, and I'll be glad to let me put that in a little easier way to understand it. All CDBG programs, since it is HUD money, has got the benefit of 51% low moderate income people. Townwide, we are no longer 51% low moderate income with the numbers that came out this year. So we can individually help houses of low moderate income people, because that's a project in itself, and it's low moderate income. We can do things that benefit the elderly, because the elderly are all considered low moderate income. We consider the disabled, the homeless, are all populations that are considered low moderate income 100%. So this is the first request for input from folks. We'll have an advertisement that'll go and advertise for people for the housing improvements. We'll also inquire with anybody within the town, within the board, et cetera, that may have some other ideas that we're not familiar with. But then we'll have another public hearing in October that will address what we announced to the public what we plan to do.
Okay.
And there's no local commitment associated with this.
There's no what associated with it?
No local money.
Oh.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this topic? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Board, questions, comments, or a motion concerning this, but there will be more to come in October. This is, did I understand this correctly, first of 2 meetings, right? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so with that being said, board, is up to you. Questions, comments, and or motions?
Do you need a motion to start the process?
I think it would be good to have one. We have a selection committee bylaws that I've adopted shown you the last one we had. It probably would be good to go ahead and approve the individuals on the housing committee, Commissioner Hobbs, Commissioner Shackford, and Mr. Hodgkins, and then I act as a non-voting facilitator. But it probably would be a good idea, because that worked pretty well with the process we went through last time. But we've got to have that as a part of the application.
On the second page of item 7, of item 2, first paragraph, the people that will be serving on this.
Are there others in the community that are on this board as well, or?
It's really up to this body to decide who, if they wanted to have that into addition to this.
And there's,
It's whatever you want it to be.
okay. So nothing tied to the grant that dictates how we administer it?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
So, thank you for that question, Commissioner Flanagan. If we tonight say that we wanted to ask an individual, would this have to be done tonight, or will that be done in October?
You would probably need to go ahead and do it tonight. Or you could leave it open and do it next week.
Okay.
You could leave the possibility open for someone else for the mayor to add people to the committee, for instance.
Board, with your permission, and I don't know if I'm out of line in this sense, I can't make a motion, but I would like to ask Jeffrey Fields if he would be willing to serve on this committee, and if he would, I would in turn ask the board for somebody to make a motion that we add his name to this, if that would be possible.
That's possible.
That's possible.
I'll make a motion that we add Jeffrey Fields to the list for the committee for the 2024 CBBG Neighborhood Revitalization Grant.
Are you good with that, sir? Jeffrey Fields' name has been submitted to serve on this. Dr. Hobbs has made a motion. Is there any discussion? All in,
May I ask, is it still that we would leave it open for any additional?
oh yeah.
Okay.
But Jeffrey's here tonight.
Yeah, yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
But I just wondered if we could leave it
Right,
open.
right.
It's really up to whatever y'all want.
Right.
Okay.
I'd like to see us add 2 more from the community. Thank you, Mr. Fields, for agreeing to do that, but at least have a balance of elected representatives and maybe 2 more from the.
Since this is, unless I'm wrong, Dave, this is an appointment by me. Is that correct?
No,
is
not
it-
a point, no, I mean, the board is approving the bylaws, which within the bylaws included the committee membership. Is that correct, Mark?
So the names that would come up next would have to come before the board in October?
Well, unless the board authorizes the mayor to, which I thought that's what you were maybe.
Well, I know that it said appointed by me, and the appointments did come that way. And I didn't know if rather than having to wait to October, say like Commissioner Flanagan wanted to nominate Mr. Smith, he sent it to me, we could get it on there ready to go, or if we had to bring him in and talk about it. And
Is that?
It's how we're going to operate. We just need to be able to have, in the October board meeting, we need to be able to announce the results of the committee's
Right.
findings and have a recommendation to people that want to help in activities.
Yeah, I think the last time the board suggested some names of folks in the community that might need assistance, which seemed to work pretty well. I know there were some.
Well, we had folks in 2018 that we were not able to,
Right.
that were approved by the committee. And so the committee will have the authority to put those folks back in if they so choose to do that.
And I think that would be really good, because there were some that were just on the bubble, so to speak. I mean, they were just off the list because the money wasn't available or there wasn't time to.
so I think, help me with this, Commissioner Flanagan. So you're saying you got a couple of names that you would like to put on this, and did I understand that correctly from the community?
Well, not me necessarily, but just I think it'd be a good idea to have, since this is a community building or benefiting program, to let them to have people from the community on this. I don't want to get it too big where it's top heavy
So
and.
manageable if you get it too big.
Right, and maybe, and I'm not trying to burden the process with more people than necessary, but, cross-sectional representation, I think would be a good thing in this, and if two.
Is that something we'd have to vote on, is what I'm going at, or can we just call in the names and be appointed to do it? Or do we need to come back and vote, like we did on Mr. Fields?
But as Mike said, this committee's going to have to meet between now and October 7th to come up with names of folks to be helped. So,
Okay.
So you don't have another, I guess this board needs to appoint tonight, don't they, the
They
members?
could appoint tonight, they could put together a mechanism that would allow them to appoint, but authorize somebody to say that somebody's okay. It's really a loose process, and we need to try to get it where the board would like to be.
I don't know if we need to meet again to vote, or if it just needs to be an appointment, and say like Commissioner Flanagan sends in, Mr. Phillips's name.
Would be an easy way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think, why don't we entertain or maybe make a motion that we accept the committee as it is with 2 possible openings to be filled by appointment.
Okay.
And then we can move forward.
And then you clarify.
And then we can clarify those names. And if no one comes forward or no one wants to be appointed, then we go on with it as it is.
I like it, yep.
Okay.
Is that number of people unwieldy, or is that?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Things fine, okay.
So that's what, 6? 3 affiliated with the town, that's essentially, and then 3 that aren't. Counting Mr. Fields,
That
that would be one of the 3 who aren't.
that would be 6 altogether.
Yeah.
And what's the process gonna be? Y'all send me the names, and then I decide how we're gonna appoint? I mean, is that what I'm understanding? The appointment thing is kind of hung out there with me, Bert.
I would say that,
Names
I don't know,
later.
maybe the first ones that come forward, if they're, credible,
Special meeting or
they
something.
can be appointed. Or,
So are you saying that I'm gonna appoint these as they come? I think that's the only thing is how, okay, say Commissioner Flanagan sends me 2 names, and I say, okay, these people are appointed, and we're good to go. Is that fair enough?
I think that's fair.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, now, let's see where we are. We're down to, okay, let me see if I got this right.
Motion on the floor.
We are going, there's a motion on the floor. Okay, that we accept this with the amendment that we're going to appoint 2 more people to the board based on
Right.
recommendations from the board.
Exactly.
Okay? All right, so there's your motion. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank
There
you
you
very
go.
much.
We have been successful in these, and I thank you for your leadership and what you do with these.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right. That brings us down to items for consent. You have them before you. Anything that you got a question about, or is there a motion that we accept the items for consent?
I move that we accept the items for consent.
Dr. Hobbs has made a motion that we accept the items for consent. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us down to items for discussion, and that brings us to consideration of an offer to purchase real property. Ricky Gorham, Dave, do you have this? Is this you?
Yes.
You're going to be the presenter? Okay.
Okay, so as part of the, part of your consent agenda, there's already one of these parcels that we've got an offer on that was already surplus a couple of years ago, actually. And then the other 4 were surplus in the resolution that you just passed in the consent agenda. So everything's now available for sale. Mr. Gorham has made offers on these properties. I put his offer in here. There were 5 properties. I also put the opus, the map of the locations for your information. If you are, at this point, you just have to decide if you're willing to entertain offers. That's what this is about. This is not saying that you're going to sell anything or sell it to him for a particular price or whatever. It just starts the process. You approve the resolution tonight, you've acknowledged his offers, and then we go through an upset bid process to advertise for upset bids from other interested parties and go from there. This is sort of a starting open bid. Now, I want to emphasize, I think I put it in the memo, I'm not sure, but I want to emphasize that even when we get down to the end, if he's the only bid, that still doesn't require you to sell it to him at all or sell it to anybody at all. It just allows you to consider that offer. And I will say that there's a couple of these properties, I think, that he's bid pretty low. And the last time we sold one, you know, you noted that I contacted the person and said that maybe they might want to consider a higher offer, and they did. I did contact Mr. Gorham. He said he used a particular strategy in coming up with these prices. Some of them were like, you know, how much we had in it as far as if it was a tax foreclosure or something like that. But he felt like these were fair offers. He didn't want to change that. So you can say we don't want to sell anything now to anyone, or if you take action tonight, you can say we'll just start the process and see if there's any interest in it beyond, well, either Mr. Gorham or someone else. And there's a specific statutory process we go through. So, you know, people would have a certain amount of time to upset his bid, and it could go back and forth. We've had a few properties, not many, where we've had multiple people bidding, and you know, it's gone back and forth, and it took a little while to get to a high bid. So I don't know how much interest we'll have, but these are properties that for one reason or another the town owns, and they're not in use, and we don't have any particular use for them. So it's up to the board how you want to proceed.
In a nutshell, this is to start the process, goes to the upset bid, and then when it gets to the end of the line, we still do not have to accept the bids.
Correct.
That's correct. Okay.
At the next meeting, the October 7th meeting, in an ideal world, you would have like the final bids. We'd be, you know, we would have already advertised, allow for upset bid process, maybe gotten other bids, maybe not, and I'd report to you where we are, and then you decide. And you can sell one of them, two of them, all five, whatever. You can pick and choose. I just lumped them in one resolution for ease, but they would be sold separately. So you could say with this one, yeah, this is a pretty good price on this, let's sell this, and let's not sell this, or whatever. It's up to the board. But it's totally within your purview to decide if you want to sell it or not.
So basically what I'm looking for is a motion to start the process.
Right, that's right.
Now, just one, you said a certain amount of time. Now, is it 30 days that someone has time to make a bid, and then isn't there a time after someone makes a bid that?
Right, you have 10 days to upset.
So it
after
can go
the
on for
advertisement.
3 or 4 months.
Oh, no, it wouldn't go, well, unless you just kept getting more bids and bids.
What I'm saying, yeah, if you keep getting more bids, it can go on for.
Indefinitely.
Right.
So,
Isn't the number 10% increase or something like that, David? Isn't there a number that requires, isn't there a certain number that's required?
it's like 10% of the, or it's 5% of the first 1,000 and 10% over that.
Okay, there is a formula for that.
I'm sorry, it's
10% of the first 1,000.
yeah, and then 5% of the remaining.
As Dr. Hobbs has said many times, there is a process. Questions, comments, anything of David concerning this, or a motion to consider the offer to purchase and adopt the required resolution if the sale is desired?
Mr. Gorham's bids are for these things individually. This is not a lump sum bid. I think that's what you said, but
No, each one,
they stand alone.
Each one is standalone. I just lumped them together because
Right, okay.
it's the same person, and I just used one resolution.
Are there any structures on any of these properties, or have they all been demolished?
They're all vacant. There's one that actually shows 2 structures if you look at the aerial, but those 2 structures have been torn down, so it's just a vacant lot. So all of them are vacant now.
Just out of curiosity, are all these lots that had structures torn down for tax reasons and delinquencies, have we come through by that process?
As far as I know, they're all due to,
Okay.
you know, just basically, some of them have been just transferred to the town. Some of them that have been foreclosed on because of taxes, but, and then at least one of them, I think the structure was torn down by the owner, but then again, it ended up coming back to us anyway, so. No structures on any of them, and I would say all of them due to some sort of tax situation.
All right, any more questions or motion?
I will make a motion that we accept the offer for consideration of the real property by Mr. Gorham and begin the bid process.
Okay. Board, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And to quote Commissioner David Shackelford, we don't need to be in the real estate business. So, and just a little point of reference here, we sold off a lot of land one time, and it all went to the recreation department, and it helped stand the recreation department up, and that was a great thing. Well, that brings us down to item number 7, and I'm excited about this. I'm gonna let David go through it. If you got a question at any time during any item, feel free to ask it. For those of you in the gallery, this is our report card. We had our retreat, and we've been a little over 6 months into that now. And what I've done and what the board has asked David to do is to tell us where we are, if we're on track of what we said we were going to try to do for the town of Farmville. And we'll know in just a few minutes where we are. And at the end of it, I'll ask him to give me on a scale of 1 to 10 where we are. Mr. Hodgkins, we are ready for our report card.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I would say overall, I'm not going to give myself a grade yet until the end, or us a grade till the end, but I will say that we made progress in all areas of the items that were discussed and that were action taken. So I'm not going to read all of this. You can certainly read all the details. What I did is in non-bold print was just basically what was reported in a nutshell for each of these items, and these are in order of how they appeared during the retreat. There were some things that aren't listed here. They were just sort of information from like subcommittee or committees and things like that. I didn't include those because those were just reports from the chairs of those committees and that kind of thing. I'm just going to hit just a few things in each item. The structure demolitions, again, bolded items are things that it's new information to you since the retreat. So there's been 2 houses demolished since the retreat, one on Zeno Street and one on South Walnut Street. There's another house on West Perry that's coming to you to start the process of demolition that will be coming to you or has been turned over to a contractor for demolition. And then there's 2 more houses that are coming to you on October 7th for more action there. So that's quite a bit of progress, I think, since the retreat there. Paving projects were discussed back in February. There was a list of projects for one reason or another. Some of them have changed slightly. Probably the biggest area that's changed is there were streets in the housing authority that were taken out because there's a major wastewater project that we're planning to do, and that project's going to tear up all these streets. So there was no reason to resurface them and then turn around and tear them up a few weeks later or months later. So those were probably the biggest change from the retreat in February to now. But there are a list of streets with some measurements that were done by Public Works that are included here. I won't go through all of those, but they're listed here. And these are going to be, they're getting pricing on that now with the paving set to begin sometime in the fall. Sidewalk projects, ADA ramps are planned at North George and Belcher Street, and also the intersection of North Barrett and Belcher Street. There's some more ramps there. Then we're filling in some gaps and making some repairs on East Church Street and South Cotintia, and there may be some others that are added later, but those are the ones that have been identified so far. The large stretches of sidewalk, like on North Main Street, some of those areas we're waiting on funding opportunities through DOT. There were several projects that were identified under drainage. Do want to report, since that time, there's been 3 significant drainage projects that have been completed. One on May Boulevard near Bynum Drive that has been taken care of that was a major failures, and had debris collected in them, things like that. That was replaced. There's one on Bynum Drive that replaced some piping that was pretty major in size, 30-inch pipe. That had been failing along the full length of the pipe. And then there was one that you may have noticed over by the splash pad, J.Y. Monk area, and that was a collapsed area, and that was replaced all the way out to May Boulevard. So those three projects have been completed, and they were not even, some of those weren't even contemplated back in February. That's how quickly we had to act on some of those. We're also working with DOT on Field Street near Moore to evaluate the ditches there and try to get some things cleaned out there with their help. Water projects, there's a big water project that you just awarded a contract for last meeting. That's the cast iron water project. And that will affect, if some of you may have noted or heard, there's some discussion there at Pine and Walnut Street where that intersection's been sort of torn up since a water line burst there. That project, that whole drainage area is going to be addressed as part of that water project, and that's why we haven't gone in there and done much, because the contractor is going to be handling that as part of that water project. It's going to start at the water tank near Cotton and come up through South Walnut, up through town. And so that project's going to be starting sometime in probably mid-October or so is what they're saying now. There's also some water line upgrades for some streets. They're listed here: Allen Street, Jones Street, Lang, North George, Davis Circle, Crestwood Drive, and East Hines Street. So there's quite a bit of work there that's already contract awarded and waiting for the contractor to get started. Wastewater projects, we finished our video inspection and cleaning project that was handled through the summer. You may have got some questions about different trucks around town doing camera work. That's done, and there's also a major wastewater project that is, as I mentioned, in the Housing Authority in replacement of that pump station, and also another project at Middle Swamp that's been, basically, we're trying to get a sewer outfall out of the floodplain. So those are the utility projects. That's funded, but we're waiting on state guidance as far as getting contracts out and everything. 100% funded by other sources, no town money in those. Hollywood Cemetery expansion, that was discussed at the retreat. The commissioners voted in support of expanding the cemetery. The section has been surveyed. Section in question has been surveyed, and we're getting ready to remove 8 small trees along Evans Street and install 4 concrete access aprons off of Evans Street for that section, to access that section better. And hope to be able to sell plots in the new section beginning the 1st of calendar 2025. Town hall window replacement was discussed. The funds were included in the budget. The town's in the process of obtaining pricing for that work. Parks and Recreation Master Plan was discussed. The board endorsed that idea. Parks and Rec sent out an RFP for proposals from prospective vendors, and there were 7 proposals received, and they are currently being evaluated. And once, I guess that committee will make a recommendation at the October 7th meeting to you to award that contract. So that's moving along. The adult makerspace, that was an issue that was discussed, but the board decided not to proceed with that. The pollinator garden at the library, that's been completed except for some signage. And Angie indicated that they were looking at a grand opening sometime around the end of September once the signage is erected. The fire department project, that's been out there for a long time. We have received word that from Senator Tillis's office that we did secure some funding through a direct appropriation from Congress. But that's not enough to get the project underway. We're still looking at some other funding, still talking with the county and others about getting additional funding. And have reopened some discussion with USDA about that. As far as the funding from Tillis's office, been in touch with folks at HUD. They're administering the grant, and we're waiting on an grant agreement from them. The last email I got, I went back and looked, was the end of July, so haven't gotten any more guidance from them since then, but it's just a slow slog with them. I've gotten 3 emails in 3 months from them about it, so each thing is like, they're sort of moving along at a snail's pace, but hope to have something to act on sooner than later. The Chamber of Commerce gave a report and made a formal budget request. They made a request at the retreat, and then they came back on May 20th at the budget workshop and made a request, and the board voted to appropriate $35,000 to the chamber for next year, or this year. And those funds were in the adopted budget, and they've already been transmitted to the chamber. And then branding and marketing, there was an update on that. Still working on adding more information to the visitors website. If you haven't been to the visit farmvillenc.com website, I urge you to. There's a lot of good information there, and that is geared towards visitors. It's not like I want to pay my water bill. It's like, what are things to do and see in Farmville, and it promotes local businesses. There's a blog, excuse me, on there that has been written by various folks in town, and so we're building on that. And we're also doing more with logo clothing. There's also we've erected parking signs you may have seen around in our public parking areas, and there's some new signage in front of the library, and there's also, we're going to be working on some wayfinding signage too. So that's sort of in a nutshell the report.
Okay, here comes question. So do we get an A minus, B plus?
I have a question before we get graded.
Okay, go ahead.
Before we grade it, the funds from HUD, are they from appropriations for fiscal year 24 or 25?
I think they are 24, 25 fiscal year.
Okay.
I'm sorry, wait a minute, 23. Yes, 24, 25.
So they have to be used before, or committed before October 1?
Well, they have to be,
Obligated.
well, they should, yes, I think you're right. I mean, we've gotten definite word that we've gotten it official from them. HUD is the department that we're having to deal with that's managing our particular appropriation. But they haven't sent us the application materials that we have to fill out to provide back to them to get the money. So we're waiting on their paperwork to arrive.
Okay.
Back to my question.
I mean, I think that we've made a lot of progress. It's hard to earn an A, so I'll say an A minus.
Okay, board, you remember the retreat, remember what we've been through, where we are, what we've done. So any questions that you got of Mr. Hodgkins at this point? Any questions of the board? Anything you may have right now concerning what we talked about at the board and where we are right now, okay? So here we go. Questions? I've waited 6 months for this. Somebody got to have some questions. Mr. Flanagan, you got any? Commissioner Smith?
No, actually, I would like to commend our town manager for all that he has gotten accomplished. I think he's done well.
Mr. Shackford?
I think we're where we need to be right now.
Mr. Evans? Think about it this way. You got your report card and you take it home to Mayor Evans. It's just you and your dad and your mom. You got some explaining to do.
Now, I think it's a good report for 6 months. I do have one question, because I haven't been able to sit in on any of the, what's your interpretation or impression of how we're progressing with our checkmate efforts?
Well, it's been somewhat dormant, well, not somewhat, it's been fairly dormant this summer because they just haven't been in session. So I've had regular phone check-ins with them every 2 weeks. The last one was actually about 2 weeks ago, and we decided that until they come back in session, it's probably not that beneficial to keep checking in and saying nothing's happening, so we agreed to take a month off or so. So I'm going to talk with them again next month, or September. I mean, they're talking with committee folks, but the General Assembly, the biggest problem now is the House and the Senate have such a different focus. Like the Senate wants to spend money, the House doesn't want to spend money, or whatever. And then they're all running for election, so they don't really want to be in session. The Speaker of the House is running for Congress, I think. So he's, preoccupied. So it's just really not there's really not much that can be decided.
And when are they back in session?
Until they go back in session.
And
October. Early, I can't remember the exact date, it was the first week of October or something along there. So, I mean, I think they're making progress, they're getting their name out there and everything, but there's nothing solid to report. We did talk with them about making contact with Pitt County commissioners, so I think there's been some discussion there.
Dr. Hobbs?
Well, since you said treat this like we did when we took our report cards home, my parents always told us that they were not as focused on the grade as they were the effort. And they wanted to know, did you put forth all the effort that you could do? So I would say, I think you put forth all the effort that this town could do, and we did a good job.
Thank you, ma'am.
And let me say, and I appreciate the comments, but I mean, these things that are reported here, a lot of these things I wasn't doing, I'm not doing these things, I'm just reporting to you. So I had input from all these different departments, and everything. So I'm reporting to you on everyone's efforts, not just my own. So please remember that the staff together is doing it, not just me.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Just a couple of notes. A big thank you to the department heads and where we are and what we're doing. I'm so pleased with where we are. I had a Mayor's Association this past week, and everybody was very complimentary of the town of Farmville. So I certainly do appreciate that. Real quick, before I go to item K, before I forget it, these appointments that you may want for the CDGB grant, if you could get them to me by Friday, I certainly would appreciate it so I can move forward and be ready for the October meeting. With that being said, anyone here have a question about anything you've heard here tonight? Are there any questions? Any questions at all? Seeing none, board, are there any comments or motion to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Smith's made a motion, we adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. See you folks in October.